Hello, and welcome back to Jacob's Guest Lounge, the history behind the mouse. Within every memory, there is magic. Today, we're talking about something every Disney fan has probably thought about at least once in their lives. If you could have any Disney pet, which one would you choose? Disney has given us so many amazing animal companions over the years. Loyal dogs, magical creatures, and hilarious sidekicks. Today I'm sharing some of the Disney pets that I wish I could have had in real life. But before we jump into the list, I want to share a quick story about some of the pets that were special to my family. Growing up, we had two dogs named Toby and Buster. Now, technically they weren't just my dogs, but I remember my parents always saying that they were family dogs, meaning that they belonged to all of us, and honestly that made them feel even more special. What's funny is that both of these names actually show up in Disney and Pixar movies. For example, Toby appears in The Great Mouse Detective, where he helps Basil of Baker Street track down clues. And Buster is the energetic dash hound in Toy Story, owned by Andy Davis. So every time I watch those movies, I can't help but think about our family-owned Toby and Buster. And that also reminds me of another family pet, my sister's cat named Nemo. I always assumed previously that the name came from Finding Nemo, but little did I know that the name actually came from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Caroline, I hope you're listening to this because every time I hear the name Nemo, I can't help but think about the little clownfish version. I figure this also is a good way of how it worked out in the end because I don't know if any of you realize this, but back in 1954, there was also a Disney film called 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and Captain Nemo had the appearance in that film. So according to what Caroline has told me, she said that she got the name Nemo from Captain Nemo. So it works out either way, I say. But speaking of Disney animals, there are definitely a few pets from Disney movies that I wish I could have in real life. So to kick it off, I'm starting with Doug. Yeah, he's one of the first that comes to mind, and Doug might be one of the most lovable dogs Pixar has ever created. And what I love about him is his simple and innocent personality. He's friendly to everyone he meets, he's always excited about everything, and he's unintentionally hilarious. And of course, there's that famous moment where he suddenly shouts, "Squirrel!" in the middle of a serious conversation. That moment still makes me laugh every time. His obsession with squirrels, while it always cracks me up, but it also raises the question, why is it that dogs and squirrels always seem to hate each other? Is it instinct, animation exaggeration, or just a running joke Disney keeps using? Either way, it's hilarious, and it makes Doug's personality even more endearing. If Doug were a real pet, I feel like every day would be full of happiness and chaos in the best possible way. Another Disney pet I'd like to have is Pongo from 101 Dalmatians. Pongo is such a great character because he really cares about the humans in his life. In fact, he actually goes to great lengths to find a mate, not just for himself, but also for his owner Roger so he won't be lonely anymore. And one of my favorite moments is when Pongo refers to Roger as his pet. That line always makes me laugh because it flips the whole idea of who the pet really is. Plus, it makes me wonder if that's how both Buster and Toby looked at our family in real life. Perhaps they did, who knows, but they definitely had a sense of defining loyalty in the best way that they knew how to at the time. Now, while Doug and Pongo are definitely two Disney pets that I personally love to have, Disney history is full of other animals that have become incredibly iconic over the years. Some of these pets helped shape Disney animation itself. Pluto. He is one of the most famous Disney pets ever. Pluto actually dates all the way back to the early days of Disney animation, and he first appeared in 1930 and very quickly became one of Disney's biggest stars. What makes Pluto unique is that, unlike many other Disney characters, he behaves like a real dog. He doesn't talk, but he communicates through body language, expressions, and reactions. Perhaps the best well-known version of his reaction that is famous to me, at least, is the That style of animation became a huge part of storytelling, if not the best trademark. In fact, Pluto was so popular that he eventually got his own series of animated shorts. Another classic Disney pet is Lady from Lady and the Tramp. Lady was created to represent the ideal family dog, loyal, gentle, and well-mannered. This movie was actually one of Disney's early widescreen animated films, and the animators spent a lot of time studying real dogs to make their movements feel authentic. That attention to detail helped make the dogs in the movie feel incredibly believable. Then there's Raja from Aladdin. Raja is Princess Jasmine's pet tiger, and while a tiger may not be the most practical pet in the real world, Raja represents something important in the story. He's not just a pet, he's a protector and a companion who clearly cares about Jasmine. He even goes to that great length in that one scene that always gets me laughing and kind of a feeling of aww. And that's the part where he holds on to Jasmine's little hood with his mouth and doing that little sound effect. Oh, didn't want her to leave. How sweet, right? And most of us 90s kids that are a fan of 90s Disney would remember this. He even reacts when people treat her badly, which helps show how isolated she feels living in the palace. And it makes me wonder, was Raja one of the first felines in Disney to be portrayed as a truly loyal companion, similar to how dogs have been trademarked in storytelling for centuries? I ask this because we're so used to dogs being the loyal, protective, family-friendly pet in films, but Raja really steps into that role for Jasmine. It's fascinating to see a cat take on that level of devotion in a major Disney movie. And then there's Pascal from Tangled. Pascal is Rapunzel's tiny chameleon companion, and even though he barely makes a sound, he has a huge personality. A lot of his humor comes from his reactions. The animators gave him exaggerated expressions so he could communicate emotions without speaking, which makes him one of the funniest silent characters in modern Disney movies. So while Disney has created a lot of memorable pets over the years, from Pluto all the way back to Pascal, there are still a few that stand out to me personally. As for me, Doug and Pongo are definitely at the top of that list. Now I want to hear from each and every one of you that are tuning in right now. If you could have any Disney pet, which one would you choose? Would it be a classic like Pluto, a fun and loyal Doug, or maybe even a royal tiger like Raja? Let me know by leaving a comment in the episode. There's also going to be a poll that I want you to fill out as well. And the question is, if you could have one Disney pet as a real-life companion, which would you choose? Doug, who's innocent, funny, and full of energy. Pongo, loyal and protective. Pluto, Mickey Mouse's dog, but clearly having the classic Disney charm. Lady from Lady and the Tramp, who's elegant and gentle. Raja, who's fierce and devoted. Or Pascal, tiny but full of personality. I also want to lay out honorable mentions such as Apu, Miko, or Flit, and Sven, because they may not be at the top of the list, but they are definitely not forgotten. And they are just as still popular by many of you that are listening as of right now. Well, that's it for today's episode about Disney pets we wish we could have. If any of you are still interested in being a future guest on the show, I will be leaving my Google Doc link so that you can all fill out the information, and it will be the perfect way to get back to me with the answer. Next episode, we're switching gears and talking about Disney's silliest sidekicks, because sometimes the sidekicks are the ones who steal the entire movie. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to follow and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, etc. And if you enjoy this episode, please give a 5-star rating on both Spotify and Apple Podcast. And until next time, keep the magic alive, and I'll see you back here in the lounge.